Morning, Hope you're having a good day. We're having a good day. No clouds in the sky. So it's nice, but we're anticipating our grandson's birthday on Sunday, and Saturday and Sunday are supposed to be a little bit rainy, so I'm not sure how that's going to work out. We're in John chapter 14. We're at a place where Jesus has turned to his disciples the night before he dies, and he tells them four times in the space of a minute, if you love me, keep my commands. And we've been thinking about that. He actually started this discussion back in chapter 13 when he said, a new command I give you, love one another. Right here, verse 34, a new command I give you in chapter 13, love one another. As I've loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. But if you're curious at all and you think about the Old Testament, you realize that the Old Testament had already commanded people to love. And Jesus himself had already acknowledged that the Old Testament commanded people to love. Maybe I shouldn't have stopped screen sharing so quickly. It's a funny little incident that takes place right here in Mark chapter uh, Mark chapter 12. I'm going to make it bigger so it's a bit easier for everybody to see. One of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating. Noticing that Jesus had given them a good answer, he asked him, of all the commandments, which is the most important? The most important one, Jesus answered, is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. So there's only one God. And our response to that should be, love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your mind, and with all of your strength. And the second command is this: love your neighbor as yourself. And there is no commandment greater than these. If you look at this uh, in some of the other Gospels, it says this sums up all of the law. So already we have in place a whole system based on loving God and loving those around you. Now, they needed a little help to know what did that mean to love the Lord your God with everything, and then to love your neighbor as yourself. And so 613 other commands were given. They were all given to help explain how you live this out. But we're in John 13, where Jesus says, the same night that we read from John chapter 14 earlier in the evening, a new command I give you, love one another. As I've loved you, you must love one another. And by this, everyone will know that you're my disciples if you love one another. How is that a new command when we already have the command in the Old Testament? It's different in this way. You have to pay attention to the details. In Mark 12:31, when Jesus is quoting the Old Testament, he quoted the verse that says, love your neighbor as yourself. It's a very high standard. It assumes that we all love ourselves, and we actually all do. Even those of us that don't like ourselves, who don't, whatever, people in the deepest of despair are actually loving themselves. When people want to get out of despair and do drastic things to get out of despair, they're loving themselves because they want relief for themselves from the despair. All of us have a high level of love for ourselves. That's not per se a bad thing. It can be expressed in a bad way, but it's not a bad thing. The Old Testament says, okay, you love yourself that much, you need to go and love the people around you. And when it says neighbor, it didn't literally mean the guy next door. No, I should say it didn't only mean the guy next door. Your neighbor was anybody and everybody that came across your path. It could be somebody from down the road, could be somebody from another city. It could even be somebody traveling through the country from another country. They were the people that came across your path, and you were to love them as you love yourself. When Jesus gave the command, he said, do it as I love. And then he goes on to say in John chapter 15, my commandment is this, love each other as I have loved you. And that's the very wording we read earlier. Love as I have loved you. And he says this, greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. That is the distinction. Jesus is now elevating what it means to love other people to a new level, where before the standard was you love yourself, love other people the same way. Jesus is now saying, I want you to exceed that. I want you to go beyond that and to love people beyond what you love yourself, because you're willing to lay down your life, your very life for your friends. And that's what he did. He laid down his life for the sins of the world. That wasn't loving himself, that was loving other people beyond himself. That's a very tall order. And so Jesus says to love that way. He had said earlier, if you love me, keep my commands. Not my command. There's more commands from Jesus than just love one another. There's a lot of people that like to bring all of the New Testament teaching, especially Jesus' teaching, down to just the phrase, love one another. It's not a bad phrase to have at all. It's a great thing to follow. But Jesus understood, just like in the Old Testament, they needed help to understand what it meant to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And so he gave 613 commands to help people understand what does that look like in real life, real motion. Jesus, I don't even know the exact count. I tried to research this morning. I've never taken the time to count them. I rely on people who have more time on their hands than I do that study these kinds of things. And I got a variety of answers that Jesus alone commanded 38 other commands, 49 other commands, 50 other commands. Maybe one day I'll research how they're listing that to see why there's a discrepancy. The point is, Jesus left us with a great deal of instruction about what it means to love one another. That doesn't even count all of the instruction in the rest of the New Testament, where there's a great many more commands. There's a whole series of verses that Paul wrote, and he spread them out all over his different letters to people, where he uses the phrase one another, talking about, excuse me, and talking about how to live out our life towards one another. And there's 33 of those alone, along with all the other commands that we find in the New Testament. Commands or commandments are not bad things. They don't earn us the favor of God. They don't earn us the love of God. They teach us how to live out the grace and love that God has shown us. So, in summary, Jesus starts the evening by saying, I'm giving you a new command to love one another. And the way that's new is you're going to go beyond just loving people to the level you're loving yourself. You're going to love people with a sacrificial love that goes beyond yourself. You're also going to love people and love him and love the Lord your God by keeping all of his commands. Have you ever done that perfectly? Have I ever done that perfectly? No, far from it. This list is, if we would see it all at once, would be such a, I want to say a daunting list. Like it would be intimidating. It would be intimidating to um, try to follow all of those things. So what are we to do? Well, the next section that we're going to step into in John chapter 14, Jesus said, in response to, if you love me, keep my commandments, he said, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to help you and be with you forever, the Spirit of truth. So we're going to begin to look at the role of the Holy Spirit in our lives, because apart from him, he's our only hope of actually living out this thing called loving one another and loving the Lord our God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. He's our only hope. So we're going to take a look at that, Lord willing. Between now and then, I hope you have a good couple days, and I look forward to seeing you all on Monday.